57. Okay. So, first thing, how's Gary doing?
He's good. He's doing well.
He got diagnosed when? Was it Monday morning?
Last Monday afternoon. Got
And
tested.
was he feeling bad a day or two before? Or?
He was. He had some pretty bad symptoms over the weekend before that, and tried to get tested earlier, but tests are so backed up. So he finally got to one on Tuesday. It was actually.
So he, how's he doing? Have you talked to him or texted him?
Just about every day. He's doing well. A little stir crazy, being cooped up at home.
Is he having all the symptoms?
Mostly just fatigue and headache. More just wore out than anything.
But not like.
Nothing real serious. No.
I guess that's because he had the.
He had been vaccinated. Yes.
Or prophylactic.
Yes.
Maybe. So how do you run things without him being there?
Well, it's pretty smooth.
Do you have to? Of course, we won't tell him that, right?
Right. Yeah. No.
Does it operate better without him?
I wouldn't say better. It's certainly quieter, but that could be a good or bad thing.
What is it the assistant to Gary Davis does? What's the exact title?
Executive assistant to the county mayor.
Does every county have one of them?
I don't know. I've never asked that question. I'm sure many of them do, but I don't know.
What was the title of his position prior to what it is now?
So it used to be, it's been a number of things. I think back in the day, they were called county judges, and then it became county executive, and more recently, county mayor.
What was the county judge? Did they judge?
I don't believe so. I think that was just their title.
That's confusing.
Yeah.
You'd think a judge judges.
Up there in the office, we've got a row of pictures going back to the 1800s. And
does it have the...
It has their name, and of course, the fact they were county judge, and some of them look like some interesting characters. I'd like to learn more about them.
Was the county judge, so it's always been county judge until it was county mayor?
Well, I think between the county executive, and some counties still call it the county executive.
Wonder when we changed to be county executive. I don't know even what causes that.
I don't know if there was a law change or...
Wonder if the titles...
Shorter on business cards.
What about
maybe?
their roles different?
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Just kind of the title.
Yeah.
So what is it you do?
That's a good question. It's something different every day. I remember when the mayor and I talked about me coming on board, I asked for a job description. And it wasn't that he struggled to come up with one. There's just so many different things that could come up over the course of what I do that it was hard to put it on paper. So I spend a lot of time at meetings and events on his behalf. It's not that he doesn't go to them. He just can't go to all of them. So there are a number of boards and committees that I serve on his behalf and representing the county. I handle all the communications, certainly for his office, as well as for the Emergency Management Agency. I'm the Public Information Officer for Troy Spence and his department over there on Guthrie. Other than that, some days I'm the complaint department. If you call and want to talk to the mayor and he's not there, you'll probably end up speaking with me.
What's the craziest calls you get?
Oh, the craziest calls?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can talk about those. Let me think. So I've only been there since March. I'd say the craziest call I had was really somebody that had to do, their issue ultimately was with the city. Those are easy calls. You just listen to them and then you say, we'll call your city councilman.
Here's their number.
That's right. But they had, and I think this has been in the paper recently, their neighbor had quite a bit of livestock in the yard, and they were pretty sick of it. So over the course of a week, I got lots of pictures and videos of chickens, and it was a week. But as far as I know, I think the city's kind of taking steps to clean all that up.
I think they had. Didn't they pass a rule
Yes.
lately? You can't have a chicken or something?
Yeah. I think they may have numbered it.
Wonder why a
Limited.
chicken's different than a dog.
You know?
I mean, So if they take something into the city, from the city into the county, what if you already have a chicken?
If they annex?
Yeah.
That's a whole different
You grandfathered in?
I don't know. I don't know what that new resolution or ordinance that they passed.
Call your city council.
That's right. That's right.
Do you how long? What possessed you to say, I believe I'll try this job?
Well, I've always been interested in politics. I've been involved locally for a while, almost as long as I've lived here.
Now you were a chairman of the Republican Party, right?
I was at one time. Yeah, I grew up in Ohio. Came down here in 2001 to go to Lee, and stayed.
What was it like in Ohio? What town in Ohio?
Just outside Dayton, Ohio. Kettering is my hometown.
How long does it take to drive there from here?
About 5.5, 6 hours, straight up 75.
Just
right up 75. Yep, can't miss it.
Turn left.
Turn turn left, go north.
Yeah, and when you get there, what?
Yeah, you take another route, but it's not 5 or 10 minutes off.
Is
off
it
of
how big
75.
a town is it?
Population-wise, I don't know. Dayton's probably comparable to. I'd say it's probably comparable to Chattanooga, maybe a little smaller.
And you were from like
Kettering,
was
just
that,
outside.
Is that Cleveland compared to that?
Like Ottawa, it's a suburb
oh.
there. Yeah.
And why Lee College?
You know, at the time, I had a friend at church, pastor's son, who's actually running for governor in the state of Ohio right now.
What's his name?
His name's Neil Peterson. They probably
Neil
appreciate
Peterson.
the plug.
Shout out to Neil Peterson. Probably nobody from Ohio is listening.
Probably not.
Except your mother.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
They'll share it.
Yeah.
He was dating a girl down here at Lee, and one weekend we just got a wild hair. He said, "Hey, let's drive down and surprise her." So we drove through the night, came down here, spent a couple days, and I fell in love with Cleveland, and it was right around the time I was looking at colleges and where I wanted to go, and I ended up here.
Were they Church of God based people?
Yes. Yeah.
Boy, Lee College has a wide wingspan,
Yes.
doesn't it?
I don't know if it's this case anymore, but when I came down, Ohio is one of the top 5 states as far as where students were from. That always surprised me.
Wonder what the reason for that is.
I think it was the Church of God presence up there, and it's not that bad of a drive.
Wonder why the Church of God has such a presence there in Ohio.
Always have.
No reason.
No, nothing in particular.
So when you got here, how long had you already gone to 2-year college, or was you going?
I had taken some classes at a community college, but I came down here, went to Lee, got involved. I probably got involved in politics here because of Lee. I was involved in the College Republicans. And then as I got older, I got involved in the Bradley County Republican Party and served in different positions, eventually served 2 terms as chairman.
Is that very big in Cleveland?
Being chairman?
Yeah.
I think it is.
I mean, how many members would you say there?
Well, Emily Beatty, who's our current chairman, is doing a great job. She's been chairman this year, and the meetings more recently have had a lot of folks. To be perfectly honest, it's difficult to get a crowd of Republicans. You would think in Bradley County they'd be coming out of the woodwork, and they are. But to come to a Republican Party meeting, sometimes we wouldn't have a big crowd. But I've been pretty impressed with the number of folks who've been showing up, and of course, it's an election year, so hopefully they'll stick around after.
It'll ramp. I remember used to, growing up, when you was going to run for an office here, you sided with the political group, and you went to all the meetings, and you stayed with them, and they used to even have parades. And now it's not as polarizing, at least in Cleveland, right?
Yeah. It's election year, so you definitely have a lot more folks that show up, candidates, elected officials, people that are just interested in the political process. So that's always good.
What made you interested in politics besides seeing it at Lee College? I mean, were you always interested in?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, I'll tell you, it was my first day of freshman year of high school. It was 1996, and Bob Dole was running for president back then.
Yeah, carried his pen like that.
Yes, he sure did. And he had a campaign stop.
You know it, I know it, the American people.
That's right.
Didn't anyone say that?
Yeah. He came with Lamar Alexander, actually, to Dayton. And my first day of freshman year of high school, they held a campaign stop in the courtyard of our high school. So we obviously didn't have classes. They had shut everything down, Secret Service and searching folks and dogs everywhere. And so, that was probably my first exposure to, of course, national politics, but it sort of sparked my interest.
What about it sparked your interest?
You know what I love about politics? I love policy, and of course I'm having an opportunity to work in government now, which is different. But for most of my life and for most of my involvement, it's been on the campaign side. And that's really what I love, is a good political campaign. So I saw the logistics behind the scenes that day on the campaign side. It was exciting. It was an exciting day that sort of prompted my interest, and so I began to watch the news more and watch the rest of that campaign.
Did he say something that made you?
You know, I don't remember exactly what he said that day. I really don't. I just remember that sparked my interest. I started to read more. I started to pay attention to the news more.
He had said something. You don't remember.
I don't remember the
but
phrase or
something.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I came to Cleveland that I really took an interest in local politics. I wasn't involved back home in local politics per se. I paid attention a lot to state and national politics, but it wasn't until I came here and got to be involved in some campaigns early, and then of course at the Republican Party level that I really got involved on a city, county, local level.
Now Hunter Shamblin, he was chairman of the Young Republicans.
Yes, I think still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they meet separate than the Republicans.
There's 2 or 3 groups. So and there've been more than that at times. Right after I came out of Lee, I was president of the Young Republicans, and that was actually how I became involved in the Bradley County Republican Party. The Republican women have a group that meets once a month typically, and they
Looks
host
like
events.
they just all together and be we're all Republicans.
Yeah. The nice part about it is they all meet. They all hit different demographics, and they all meet at different times. So like the women will meet at lunch. The Republican Party will meet in the evenings. Young Republicans, whenever they can get together, wherever they can get together.
Do you think that's all to get together with people that think the way you do, to try to sell your idea on other people, or is it more to try to figure out how to win the election?
I think it's good to get together and talk with other like-minded folks, but that's not where hearts and minds are changed, in my opinion. Whether it's governing or it's campaign, you know, the average voter, the average citizen doesn't come to those meetings, doesn't know what's talked about in those meetings, and so I've always looked for unconventional ways to get the message out to folks like that, because ultimately those are the people who decide elections. It's not the people in the room at Republican Party meetings or inside the fishbowl.
So you see politics as a way to get a message across, not necessarily to see if we can get more votes than them, but it's to...
I think it's both. I firmly believe it matters who governs. So I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't feel more comfortable with a Republican rather than a Democrat. By and large, doesn't.
But they all think so much the same
on some issues.
You know, it's astonishing how they both think about. They all want about the same thing.
Yeah.
But how do you? So when they go to these meetings, I've always thought, how do you sell the public on your idea? Other than just vote for this guy, he's a nice guy. He used to work with his hands.
Yeah,
we want a real worker in office. That's the old saying, right?
Right. I think now you have to have a little substance to whatever it is, whatever the message or the product, if you will. If you're a candidate, you're trying to sell a product. That's yourself. That's your message. That's your ideas. You've got to have a little more than just a good story about your work ethic. You know, in my opinion, people are looking for experience. People are looking for people that they can relate to, a story that they can relate to, a common cause. I think my greatest frustration is how polarizing politics has become on the local level as well as the state and national level. You know, I believe that Republicans and Democrats, Libertarians, everybody in between, any end of the spectrum, by and large, want the same thing. They want a good, strong country and a good, strong community to live, work, and raise a family. And I think at the end of the day, we look at the route to get to that goal in different ways. And that's where some of the dysfunction and the breakdown. We've gotten to a point where we've forgotten. We don't know how to disagree without being disagreeable. Frankly, it's tough to have conversation a lot of times, unless you can sit across the table and you've got one level-headed person on this side and one level-headed person on the other side, and agree to shake hands at the end of the conversation and walk away and still be friends. I used to be one of those that would rant and rave on Facebook, whatever the latest,
thing,
Supreme Court decision or, celebrity saying, and I just came to realize, I'm not changing anybody's mind on my Facebook page. And they're not changing mine. So
I've noticed in the beginning, people will they'll have a lot of people like what they're saying, and after a while, there's nobody liking it but one. And
Yeah.
It was them. And
yeah, some people just like the drama. They like to stir up arguments.
Boy, that is the truth.
Yeah,
They just like drama,
Yeah.
no matter what it is.
and that's at the end of the day, that's not productive. It might be fun, even though I don't think it is. It's certainly not productive.
And you got to watch what you say on social media. They'll pull that up 10 years
Yeah.
later and say, he said this.
Absolutely.
And they've edited it and
People have
changed
lost
even
their
what you
jobs. Yeah,
people's lost their jobs.
yeah.
So when you decided, but prior to working for Gary, did you think about working for him, or did he approach you, or did you approach him?
Well, we over the time that I've been here, I think at least once or twice it was a job that I maybe even applied for. I know at least once.
Was that a position in government that you thought, hey, I believe I'd like that?
So my favorite television show of all time is The West Wing, if you've ever seen it. It's an older show. It hadn't been on in a long time. But my favorite character was a character named Josh Lyman. He was the deputy chief of staff. And so the idea of a chief of staff or deputy chief of staff, kind of the guy behind the scenes, has always been something that I like. People have asked me if I'll ever run for office, and I'll never say never, but I've always been more comfortable and worked better sort of behind the scenes. And so it was a job. It's been a job. I mean, others have held it. Dr. Lindsay Hathcock had just retired, or didn't retire, I'm sorry, moved on to another position with the state. And so that opened up the position. He'd served there for a number of years. Dan Howe had served in that position before. So there's a long line of folks that position has been there. And so I don't remember what year it was, but at one point I had, when it was open, I believe I had applied and talked with the mayor. So, when it came back up, I of course knew that Dr. Hathcock was leaving, but it wasn't a position that I sought. And so actually it's something that he approached me about, and we started some productive conversations and came to a good decision.
Do you think that, or why do you think that you want to be more behind the scenes? Maybe the tail that did you see the movie The Tail
Yes.
That Wags the Dog?
Yes.
Are you thinking more in that lines, or more of the Ed McMahon type? You remember Johnny
Yeah,
Carson?
not a sidekick, I guess, to use your analogy.
Yeah.
The tail that wags the dog. I think, first of all, it's more fun. There's not quite so much pressure on a guy like me. Obviously, my boss or a candidate that I'm working with, they're the ones with all the pressure. They're the candidate. They're the elected official. So more of the pressure's on them. But I've just always got a sense of enjoyment out of helping craft a message, craft a good strategy for how to win. It's I won't say it's a game, but it is a numbers game. Campaigns are a numbers game. And so many times, I said it earlier, it matters who governs. And I've always believed that all the attention to politics gets paid to the national level. We've got 24-hour news channels that's all they talk about. But I believe the way the founders built our country, the government that's closest to you has the greatest impact on our day-to-day lives. Sure, decisions get made in Washington that have an impact. Supreme Court makes a decision, it has an impact. But the laws and the ordinances that are passed in Nashville and here in Cleveland and in Bradley County, I've always believed have a greater impact on our day-to-day lives than anything that happens in Washington. And so for that reason, to me, it matters. It matters who governs at the local level.
Maybe if you're a local government themselves, it matters what the next level is doing.
True.
And that level, it matters what the next level.
Right.
But to us,
Yeah.
it's just what's our city and county, the planning commission, the county commission, the city planning, the city commission.
Right. It doesn't matter that. It doesn't mean that who governs at the national level doesn't matter.
Right.
I
It's
just
just
have
that we
always-
don't have that much
Right.
of effect on it.
Right.
So what did you do before you went to work for him?
So I've been most of my career has been actually in food service management. When I left Lee, I got a job at the Bald Headed Bistro. I worked for Alan.
What
for
would you
4
do
years.
there?
So I started off as a host. I came out of Lee. I needed a part-time job, so I just
What'd you
became a
graduate
host. I didn't actually. I don't have my degree. I didn't get to finish. One of the bigger regrets that I hope I can rectify one day.
Did you
but I
get close enough?
I believe I'm almost a senior, or just I'm probably a senior. Yeah. But I mean, I'm proud of what I've been able to do with that one. But I
Yeah,
still
I mean,
think I'd like to finish it.
What would you have done? Which that certificate?
I was in political science, and so I would have graduated with a degree in political
When
science.
you went to Lee College, did you say, I'm graduating in political science?
No, I actually came down here as a pastoral studies major.
What religion? Or
At Lee, well, Christian.
or you're just Christian?
Yeah. I was in the pastoral studies program at Lee. when
Did
I
you
first
take
came.
a
I did theology.
theology?
Yeah, that's what kicked me out.
Which is what? The study of religion?
Yeah, more or less. Not just religion, but specifically Christian thinking. And it wasn't that I got kicked out of the class. It was deep, and it wasn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't that I disagreed or that I had a hard time comprehending. But I just felt we got bogged down in a lot of conversations and a lot of times arguments about
Circular arguments?
in theology. And so I just kind of got burnt out on that and ended up switching my major.
In theology, what do they study, like Baptist versus Catholic, or do they study
Doctrines, Christian doctrines.
like what's a doctrine? I'm ignorant.
So, this is going back a long time, almost 20 years. But we studied a lot of doctrines, specifically of the Church of God, ideas about the Trinity. I almost said trilogy. The Trinity.
That was Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, that's right. About the Trinity and the roles of Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God the Father and things like that.
But wouldn't a lot of that be opinion, or would it be strictly?
Well, I think it probably all starts as an opinion, but it's based in Scripture.
But when they say theology is the study of the Bible, then it looks like they'd had time to study it by now.
Yeah.
But everybody'd have time to figure it out.
Right.
So it's got to be opinions.
And the professors were great. Dr. Cross was one of my professors, and it's fascinating subjects.
What would that graduating in that would let you go be a preacher somewhere?
Yeah.
Because you understood the doctrine.
And that's what I came down to Lee planning to do, was to
Were you going to preach?
yeah, I was going to be a pastor somewhere. And now here I am on the discussion.
Yeah. In the discussion.
In the discussion,
Yeah.
right?
So when you decided, what made you say, hey, I'm not going to finish this thing out?
The degree
Yeah,
period. Well, I
yeah.
switched to pastoral, from pastoral to political science.
Yeah.
It was just a timing thing. When I started at the bistro, it was part-time. Within 6 months, they had offered me a management position. And so, I just went with that gung-ho with every intention of taking classes during the day and kind of finishing things up. And time and life just get away from you. And
Boy, that's the truth.
next thing you know, you're 15 years from saying you're going to finish something, and it's still sitting over there at Lee waiting to be finished. So
If you had to go back, would you go ahead and finish no matter what?
I would.
Even if you had to live in your car?
I would.
It wouldn't have taken you how much longer?
Or maybe another full time. It would have taken me another year.
12 months.
Yeah.
Makes you sick, doesn't it? I didn't go to college myself, so I'm not being critical.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the way life goes, isn't it?
Yep. I wish I'd have finished, and I still want to.
But it won't do you any good right now. You're. So when did you work at the bistro up until went to work for Gary?
So I worked there 4 years, and one day I got a call from a recruiter, and went and worked back at Lee for the food service company there. I was there probably I think 3 years, and got a call from another recruiter, and went over and did similar work for M&M Mars. You know, all these companies. You know, if you work for somewhere that's got a cafeteria, you know, these manufacturing plants or schools, it's all contract food service. So there's a big business in that.
And neither one of those was what you were wanting to do.
No, I tell people I fell into that career. You know, I was successful at it. I found I was successful at it, good at it. The more I worked up, you know, obviously the better money I made. Went from there. I got a call to work for another company at Volkswagen in Chattanooga.
Maybe
And
you're a good manager.
I hope so.
You ever thought of that?
I hope so.
Maybe it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I enjoy it. I enjoy working with people and building a good team.
Now, don't you own a company also that helps people with political campaigns?
I have, yes, I have in the past. Yeah,
You don't own it now.
it's not operating
Yeah.
fully right now. No.
Was that like that movie? I'm a movie buff. What was the one about Bill Clinton? I can't think of the name of it. It's sort of documented, but but it wasn't a documentary about his political campaign.
Yeah.
But running for politics, running a campaign is totally different. It's the undercurrent that nobody sees.
Right. Yeah, for years I've done political consulting, and have really enjoyed it. And that's what primarily that, and communications and marketing for businesses.
Would you say that political campaigning is different on the level of local government than it is national government, or is it the same but just a higher level?
Some of it's the same, but there's a lot that's different. At the local level, you still have the ability to knock on doors and meet people face to face. You get to the statewide level, you still do that to some degree, but you're moving so fast, it's really hard to talk to folks and build relationships like you can at a local level with your constituents. Certainly, presidential campaigns, national campaigns, you're just flying in and out of arenas and talking to thousands of people and moving on to the next one as fast as you can.
You can't have a one-on-one with anybody, hardly.
No, it'd be very, very difficult.
Now, I know this guy that's running for governor of Tennessee. I've had him on here, Charles Van Morgan. Mm-hmm. He's literally trying to knock on every door.
Yeah, that'd be tough to do.
He's trying it.
Yeah.
If that gets it, he'll win it.
And it works. It really does.
It works. He's a real nice guy too, by the way. How is it theoretically possible for him to knock on all these doors?
I don't know when he started, but if he just started recently.
No, he started maybe 6 months ago.
Okay. Well, I don't know what his number of doors is he's trying to knock on. Somebody like me, I would look at the voter list and decide, okay, these folks are more likely to vote than these ones, so we're going to target these folks. And that's how you come up with your number for who to send a postcard to, or a phone call, or a knock on the door. Really, in my experience, beyond, if you're trying to knock on every door, any race outside of a school district or county commission district or a city council district, it's really hard to do that yourself as the candidate. Even countywide, you've got to have a team
Could it
of
be
folks.
done?
It can be. I've seen it done plenty of times. I've worked with candidates who have knocked on every door, targeted door, not literally every door.
But tried to get every door.
Mm-hmm.
What's typically the outcome of the guy that does that?
They win.
Years ago, I eat at the Liars Table. And years ago, there was two guys. There was two guys running, and I won't name their names. But this friend of mine was friends with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was better friends with one guy than he was the other.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, "So you going to vote for me?" And he said, "No." And he looked at him just shocked and said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, the other guy came out to my house."
Yeah.
He didn't say the other guy agreed with me. The other guy saw life the way I did. He said he came out to the house. Why is that so different? Why does that make such a big difference?
Because people don't do it. Every time I've worked with a candidate that has knocked on a door for the first time, maybe they're a first-time candidate, or even if they're running for re-election, they get a handful of responses that are all the same. I've never had somebody come knock on my door. They might have gotten a mail piece, or they might have got carpet bombed with a robocall or something like that. But
throw those away,
it's a whole different ball game when somebody shows up on your front door, takes the time, sometimes in the rain, sometimes in the cold, to look you in the eye as a voter and ask you what's important to you, and then ask for your vote at the end of that conversation. People just don't do that. And so has every candidate that's ever done that won? There's probably one or two that haven't. You know, you can't be a knucklehead and run for office. But if you've got a good message and a good work ethic and get out there and do that kind of thing, especially at the local level where it's possible to hit that many doors,
I'm not sure that a knucklehead couldn't knock on enough doors and win.
well, as long as you're not too big of a knucklehead, yeah, you can probably win.
Well, I don't know. It just seems like there's power in somebody knocking on your door.
Yeah.
It doesn't. They don't say it. They agree with me.
People remember it.
I guess you could knock on enough doors to still win, even if you were a knucklehead.
Yeah.
If you were. But usually somebody going out and knocking on doors and going to see the voters is really not a knucklehead anyway.
Right.
They're just, So do you see yourself as staying with the county as an assistant to the county? Are you going to the dinner he's got in September?
Yes.
I guess you got to, don't you?
Yeah.
Where's it going to be at?
Cleveland High School.
Cleveland High. I got tickets.
Good.
Yeah. I get tickets every year.
Yeah.
I like Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's calm, not going to have any problems with what he does. It's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what was I asking you before that? How long are you going to stay with this?
Well, there's obviously an election next year for mayor, so I plan to be with Gary at least through the election, and depending on the outcome, we'll obviously see. But I don't have any plans to leave. For me, this is right up my alley and right up what I like to do and what I like to be involved in. So, is it the end all be all for me? Probably not, but I'm not looking to leave anytime soon. That's for sure.
What makes you enjoy this so much? I'm trying to unlock something. I can't.
I
think I know, but
I overthink things, and so this is a great job for that because I like to look at all angles. I like to predict and be prepared for what might happen next. There's any number of discussions and issues that come up. Annexation is one right now that's a hot topic and has been. So a lot of these are just opportunities for me to learn more about what the conversation is. But frankly, I just like to be a part of the conversation and help influence people, help the ones I'm working with to influence people. And I've like I said, the campaign side is different than governing. Governing is a little bit different, but it still has a lot of
campaign is what puts you in a position to govern. So you have to have both.
If you don't win, you can't govern, right?
Now there's an old saying with people that are in office. There's two theories that I've seen. I'm going to vote my conscience no matter what, period.
Yeah.
And then there's the other person that says, well, I've got to bend some or I can't govern.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which one's right. Let's take a break.
I've worked with candidates that just about every candidate when they're running, especially first-time candidates, they go into this thinking they need to be a voice for the people, and that's good. But you've got to commit to that. That means that every major decision you make, you're listening to the folks in your district or your constituents before you vote. And so I think what you're talking about is that balance of, am I elected to represent the people, or am I, or did the people elect me to represent them? In other words, the way I feel about issues is why they voted for me, and therefore that's how I vote. And so there is a balance, and
so it's not one way or another. You don't think?
I've often thought, where would I land? The good thing about political parties is that in most cases, when you put your name on the ballot as a Republican, you're going to line up pretty closely with most Republicans on all of the big issues. So, same as a Democrat. I think there are times when issues and votes come up where you hear from conflicting constituents, if you will. I think one of the good examples is this conversation about annexation that the county's having right now. You've got developers and realtors and on one side, and you've got folks on the other side of the coin making opposite arguments. And to me, that's an issue where you've got to look at it and decide, what are my principles, and why am I voting yes, or why am I voting no?
By the time this thing airs, that vote will already be cast.
That's
anyway.
true. It's going to be 2 days.
So nobody knows.
Right. But I think...
but yeah, it's not just that. That's the whole conflict of questions arise like that all the time. And
you're not going to... I tell candidates this too, and it doesn't take long before they realize it all on their own, but you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always somebody... There's at least one person that didn't vote for you. So right off the bat, they're not happy with you. But the longer you serve and the more votes you make, the more that list of folks that may be upset or disappointed with something that you've said or done adds up, and that's hard. You're never. Politics is not a job for somebody with thin skin. That's for sure. And people take it personal if they're not careful. And it's important that anybody that wants to be a candidate or is an elected official has got a certain amount of thick skin to be able to walk in there and vote based on principles and listen to folks and see both sides of the argument before they make a decision, but ultimately go in knowing that they've got to vote yes or vote no and stand by it.
Now, no one would ever understand all the nuances that go with voting one way or another. There's so much stuff that even nobody would know unless you'd been to all the meetings, you'd heard everybody's argument. And so for me to sit and say, well, I'd vote this way or I'd vote that way, that'd be wrong with me because I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'd do this, but I couldn't know.
It's true. There's a lot of, this annexation issue has a lot of cooperation built into it with the city. There are a lot of other issues and a lot of other projects that the county needs cooperation from the city. So do we vote no and stifle that sense of cooperation with the city? Do we vote yes and take up these issues later? I mean, you're right. It's very rarely an isolated vote. Your vote has consequences that ripple across a number of different areas.
Sometimes you got to figure out which is the worst of the two evils to vote the right way.
Yeah.
But now that's, like the county commission, they're voting. But on the other hand, what you're doing with Gary is literally governing.
Right.
He's running the county. You're assisting with running the county. So that's a whole nother ballgame. Yeah. It's like you got to play two things all the time.
Well, and there's still parts of it that overlap. You asked, I love a good campaign, but why am I attracted to the governing side? It's all about building consensus.
What's consensus to you? What's the definition of that to you?
Well, on the county level, it's 8 votes. Consensus is getting 8 votes through the county commission to get something passed. The mayor doesn't have a vote. So he still carries obviously an enormous amount of influence.
Because there's 8. How many is there on it?
14.
So 8's 51%.
That's right. Man, my favorite line Howard Thompson uses it quite frequently. If you get 8 votes, you can move the courthouse.
That's the truth.
That's the truth.
Twice. You move it twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's simple, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's a lot that goes into that, but the fact of the matter is, you can if you have the votes on any number of issues or topics or projects, that's how.
And if
progress
2
is made.
weren't there, you'd only need 6 or 7.
No. Well, yeah.
You
Majority,
just did simple majority.
Yeah, there are some that still require, regardless of the number of people that are there.
From
but
back
you're right.
in Ohio, what do you have classmates that you talk to frequently that are there?
Yes.
Do they know you've risen to the level of
To the executive, to the county mayor.
Bradley County?
They do, yes.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Well, I was class president, so they just look at me and shake my head, and they're not surprised.
How many was in your class?
It was about 160, I believe. Christian high school in Dayton.
So it was a private high school?
Private school, yeah.
You think that it was better going to private high school than a...
I'm not unhappy. I'm grateful that my parents were able to afford it. It was certainly a sacrifice. I've got 2 kids. They're both in Bradley County school system. I'm pleased with the level of education they're receiving. So it's not a huge issue for me.
What school do they go to?
They're at Charleston Elementary.
Charleston Elementary.
My little girl's in 5th grade, be in
My
middle
dad
school
went
next
there
year.
one year. That's a good town. That's a
It's a
good
great
place
school.
to live, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm building some apartments up there.
Are you?
Right on the main road, right before you get to school.
I drive
on the
past
left.
them every day.
Yeah. I'm going to finish as soon as this pandemic's over.
Yeah.
Do you ever get a ticket going through Charleston?
No, since I started with the county, and I drive a county vehicle, I don't get tickets anymore.
Prior to that, though.
No, I've never had a ticket up there.
Because they
patrol well.
Now, if you go across the bridge and you go
Calhoun.
to Hardee's, you'll get a ticket.
Yeah.
Period. You get
Just
a ticket
because you cross the bridge?
Just because you'll get a speeding ticket.
I think I've
if
only
you
been
go
over there
past
twice.
Hardee's, because it reduces to like 35
Yeah, it does.
miles an hour,
Yeah.
and they're sitting down at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you just can't go. Only way you can go through there and not get a ticket is to drive like 15.
Well,
I had somebody call me, a good friend of mine, said, "Hey, my daughter's going to build a house, Calhoun. Can you build it?"
yeah.
And I said, "Well, I have to go past Bowater and Hardee's." They said, "Yes, it's just down the road." I said, "Well, I can't. We can't afford the speeding tickets.
Wow.
Because if you get like 12 points in a year,
It's that bad?
they suspend your license. And a speeding ticket's like 3. So I mean, it's now if you're speeding, it's one thing, but
I'm trying to think I think the last ticket I got was in 2003. Headed home to Ohio on 75, almost to Cincinnati. I think that's the last ticket I've ever had.
well, I think that if you're speeding, you should get a ticket. But I think if you're going 30, 38 past Hardee's, you shouldn't get a ticket. In Calhoun, Tennessee.
I didn't realize it was that bad.
It's that bad. It's that bad. So yeah, I really like Charleston. You know, Charleston has sewer. It's got a grocery store. It's got a school. It's got a. I always got confused about its city government. You know, if you wanted to start your own city, what would be involved? I mean, you couldn't start a Charleston. I mean, how do they vote that in? Have you ever thought about that? How does it begin?
I would assume they have a charter.
Who do you file the charter with?
The state, I believe.
So let's say that I wanted to take, you know, I don't know, however many.
You want to start your own
acres.
city?
I mean, if you did, what would be involved?
Oh gosh, I don't know about that. I don't know if you could. You know, we've got all these you see them occasionally, the signs. All these unincorporated communities.
Like Tasso
Yeah.
and a lot of them
Yeah.
around here. I always wonder.
That's a good question.
I always wonder if it says unincorporated, why even put up the sign?
Yeah.
If it's unincorporated, I mean, what's the point? If it's unincorporated,
You can
why
still-
even have the sign?
Yeah.
So in other words, if you started your own city, you almost couldn't do it today, I guess.
I would think it'd be pretty hard. You
And
see
I don't-
how hard it is just to annex.
Oh yeah, just to annex. Yeah, yeah,
Imagine starting your own city.
yeah, yeah.
There'd have to be some money involved too, because you have to provide services.
Well, you know, Conway tweeted, didn't he start his own city, Branson, Missouri, or something? Wasn't it?
Did he start
Conway's-
Branson?
I believe it was Conway.
It's huge now.
Yeah, it was. I think he started the city.
Really?
So I don't know what you'd have to do, but you know, they start HOAs, homeowner association.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a very small version of a city? Just they vote that in. That just always confuses me.
It matters who's president of the HOA too.
You know, there for a while.
matters who
There
governs.
for a while, Calhoun City Police. They weren't accredited, is what I understood. So they weren't even supposed to give tickets. I don't know. I guess Calhoun is it a city?
I believe it
Or
is.
is it unincorporated? Or all that confuses
Yeah.
me. So do you like Bradley County better than where you're from?
I do. I miss my family, of course. And of course, there's a lot of change anywhere, but
What do you miss about the weekends in Ohio versus the weekends here?
well, you know, I've lived here over half my life now, so it's hard to remember what I did on the weekends up there. But I do. I miss my family, and you know, there were some great. Cincinnati was just right down the road. We had some great places to travel close by. My family had a cabin at the lake that we would go to on holidays, and so I miss things like that. But that was all when I was younger.
Are they still alive?
My parents are, yes, yeah. My parents and my sister. It's my immediate family. They all still live up in.
How often do you get to
Kettering.
go back there?
I try to get up there a couple times a year. It's not as often as I should, or they'd like me to come, but
Do they ever come here?
every once in a while they do. Yeah.
Where do they stay?
Usually with me. They'll stay with me, and it's been a while. My dad is going through a bout of cancer and has had quite a bit of treatment over the last year, and so they've not been able to travel like they.
Is he making it okay with it?
He is. He's going through quite a bit of treatment right now, but doctors are optimistic and
He
hopeful
picked
that
a bad
everything-
time to go through it, didn't he?
Yeah,
With COVID. Did you get the shot?
I did. I did actually.
You're not
COVID.
supposed to ask that, are you?
Well, you know, I don't mind.
I figured since Gary did, you
Yeah.
did. So,
I had COVID back in December. No, just a mild case.
what made you get tested for it?
So I had all the symptoms, and where I was working at the time, a couple in the office tested positive too. So
Was your chest tight?
no, I didn't have any breathing issues. I had headache. I had for 2 or 3 days, I just felt like I'd gotten hit by a truck, and so I didn't have anything. After about 2 or 3 days, I didn't take anything other than just Advil for a headache. I felt pretty good. So
Was
I
your
was
nose
lucky.
stopped up?
I had some cold symptoms, but I never had any. I never got to the point where I couldn't breathe through my nose or tightness in the chest or anything like that. So it was certainly a mild case. I was grateful for that, but it was sort of right in the middle of our last peak, which I guess we're in the middle of another one now. But,
I think it's because people are getting vaccinated and they think they're invincible now, and they're getting out
Yeah.
more.
I definitely think just even a month and a half ago, everybody thought, "Hey, we're home stretch."
I got the shot, man. I'm good.
Yeah, and just I mean the numbers were down. We were well under 100 cases. I
It's
think
like
down 40 or
200.
50.
Yeah.
And then it just started shooting back up. You know, I don't really know what to point a finger at and say it was this or that. And you know, you hear about these different variants and
And I know more
Delta
people
variant.
that's got it now than I used
Yeah.
to.
it seems to be impacting school age children a lot more than it did before. So
People in their 20s.
yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert, but I get the sense it's going to be around for a while. And it's going to have to be something we just learn to live with, and maybe like the flu shot, it'd be something that we have to look at taking every year. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Right now, it's everybody's guess on
Yeah.
every aspect of it.
Yeah. And like politics in general, it's certainly polarizing. You know, you get the shot and you don't get the shot. I mean, it's
What gets me is they say, well, if you're a Republican, you don't get the shot. But most of the Republicans I know got the shot.
yeah,
So that's not it.
yeah. No, I can't say that I see a divide between Republicans and Democrats on that issue. I think I think the numbers, at least in our local hospital, seem to me to tell the tale.
That's what I think.
That folks that are vaccinated are a fraction of who's hospitalized, and even less of those that are vaccinated.
They said
end up in serious
90% of the
condition.
people in the hospital are unvaccinated.
Yeah, they've been putting the numbers out. The hospital, our local hospital has, and that's what the numbers bear out.
You know what I think they should do in order to get people to volunteer to get vaccinated is charge for it.
How so?
Well, if you charge for it, everybody want it. It's free. That's why they don't want it.
Yeah.
If you said, hey, it's $200, everybody'd be saving up to get it,
Yeah.
right? They think since it's free, it's
Yeah.
some kind of conspiracy.
It does seem to be too that the number of vaccine doses have gone up. So I think more and more people are getting vaccinated. I think the FDA finally approving at least one of them probably helped a lot of folks make that decision.
I got it shot in this arm, and I was talking to I'm a hypochondriac. So the guy said, did it hurt you? Did it hurt? And I said, well, my arm's just a little bit sore, but not too bad. And I got to thinking, I got the shot on this side. I'd done imagine my arm was sore.
I never got sick with the shot either.
I got a little sore throat, but I think that was Bradford pears. Because
allergies.
they'll do it too.
Yeah.
Bradford pears are bad. Did y'all have Bradford pears in Ohio? Did they
I didn't have allergies in Ohio. I didn't have allergies
you-
until I moved here.
What blooms that bothers you?
Who knows? I get it in the fall and I get it in the spring, so whatever that is.
Well, the spring is usually Bradford pears.
Okay.
And the fall is, I don't know what it is.
That 2 or 3 weeks that my car's coated in yellow, whatever that is.
Yeah. Oh, that's those Bradford pears.
I hate Bradford pears.
Some cities outlaw Bradford pears
For that reason?
for that reason. It's so bad on some people.
It's a good idea.
So, do you think? I think that there's a chance that they start recommending places stay closed again if this keeps going.
I hope not.
I mean, it's the same as it was then.
Yeah.
How do these businesses stay open with the doors closed? I just can't figure out how they're doing it.
Well, some of them are. And even though, we're open. By and large, everything's open. But nobody's working.
You know, when this first started, I go to Starbucks every morning, and the line was all the way out to the road. And everybody going up there ordering complicated drinks instead of just saying, give me coffee with cream. It's a big list. And so I found this app.
Starbucks app.
Yeah, and so it was complicated. I thought, man, you got to do this, that, and you got to push this and load the money and do that. After about 3 days of that, that's the only way I want to order.
Yeah.
Because you just hit 3 buttons,
Save your drink.
and they'll have it up there when you get there. You do it about 5 minutes ahead of time and just walk in, and you feel like a rock star. You get it and you're gone. And so that's a lot of businesses are doing that now.
Yeah.
Even the businesses that didn't have a drive-through
Oh, yeah.
were really hurting.
Curbside and delivery. That's just taken off.
What's
because of
something
COVID.
that you do now that you're used to that you didn't do pre-COVID as far as buying stuff
Shopping?
and going to eat and stuff?
Well, I don't go out to eat much anymore at all just because even sit-down restaurants, anywhere you go, drive-thrus, fast
Because
food,
of-
the wait. They're just so short-staffed that you can go into a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant, and I won't name a name because there's multiple ones that are facing the same problems. Half the restaurant's empty, but it's a 45-minute wait.
And the ones they have there have an earring through their nose, and they're not hiring them because they were the best, because that's just the only one that will work.
Yeah. I don't know where all these folks are that aren't working.
I don't know either. I think they're working for cash. They're
Well, the
working
government's
somewhere.
given out plenty of cash in the last year, so.
But you know, even the money they've given, you can't hardly live on it. So I don't know. Something's going on that we don't know about, because you know
That speaking of that restaurant, Calhoun, it's drive-through only.
Hardee's?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of restaurants that do that. One of my favorite restaurants downtown, Gardener's Market.
They're still closed, aren't they?
They're open, but it's just walk up to the window only. They've been
been
closed
that
since March
since-
of last year, I think, inside.
And boy, they did a big business, didn't they? They could have had two spots there.
They're still busy, but I imagine they had to have taken a little bit of a hit not being open for people to sit
You know,
down.
I asked them to come here. I thought that would be real good.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't come because of COVID.
Really?
They've got the best soup there. You ever eaten their
Yes.
field of green soup?
Yes. I like their club sandwich.
I like the field of green soup. They only make it certain days. And they make it for me by the quart.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You
And
freeze
just-
it?
They freeze it, and I
Yep.
go get it, and I put it in the freezer. And in fact, I'm going to go get some tomorrow. I got to thinking, they've got a recipe on that nobody else can match. I don't know what they've got in it, but if they just canned that, they wouldn't have to have a restaurant. Or put it in jars and sell the jars.
It is good.
But Gardeners, when you call them, is the line long, or you call in ahead of time, or what?
I just work down the block, so I call them, and they say most of the time it should be ready in 10 or 15 minutes. So
What
by
time
the
do you
I
call?
Get there, it depends. Lunchtime, 1 o'clock.
So they're probably jammed around 1 o'clock or 11:30.
There's usually folks sitting outside. They've got a few tables outside there that people eat at.
So the line very long when you get there, or you have to pay when you get there?
Just pay, and they hand me my food, and I'm on
I
my
put
way.
that window in for them.
Did you?
Yeah, works good.
It
doesn't
does.
Yeah.
So, are you a big proponent of downtown Cleveland?
I love downtown. Yeah, not just because I work there. I've always loved it. I'm happy to see so much of it being revitalized and new businesses and new restaurants. I think it's great.
Somebody said if they lose one more parking space, they're going to kill downtown Cleveland.
Well, that's true. There
I
are
think they
not
were
enough
being
parking spaces.
they were being sarcastic,
Yeah.
like it was already said.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely could be some more parking.
Do the where else do you eat down there?
Oh,
Downtown.
I love Cafe Roma.
Yeah, I ate there Friday. Left my hat.
Catch is good. Stack is good. I haven't
Stack's a big
Gone.
hamburger,
Yeah.
right?
I haven't gone wrong with anything down there really.
Lassiter's is new.
Yes.
They've got a lunch.
Yes. It's good to have the two coffee houses downtown now.
No, you got the Lassiter's and you got the tennis shoe shop. Right?
Yes. Cleveland Brew. It was Bear
No.
Brew, but they've changed their name.
Yeah.
I should know their name. I'm sorry.
Lassiter's does a pretty big business over next to, what do you call that?
Jenkins.
Spring Creek.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear David Jenkins passed
Very
away last
sad.
night? Oh,
Very sad.
he was always friendly to me.
Nicest guy you'd ever meet.
That's going to be a big bad.
Yeah.
So, how far? You ever just get out and ride the county to the far ends of the county? What would you say is the farthest end that you could drive to?
Oh, goodness. Well, you've got, I think of it like an X. You can go all the way up there, almost, Birchwood, up on that end of the county.
Anderson Cabin Road?
You go all the way up to...
Half of Anderson Cabin Road is in this
Yeah.
Bradley County.
Yeah. But you go out that way towards Dayton. You go the other direction, southeast. You go all the way out to, they call it Old Fort, but almost to the Polk County line down there, Georgia line.
Buck's Pocket.
Yep.
Is it Buck's Pocket or
That's
Green
down there.
Shadow?
Yeah, Green
I think it's Green
Shadows,
Shadow.
and then Buck's Pocket and Old Fort unincorporated.
Unincorporated, yeah.
You get up there off Upper River Road, go out that way.
Let's see now.
I forget the
Denton
number
Station?
of miles. Yeah, I forget the number of miles counting the county roads. Have you had Sandra Knight on here? She could
No,
tell
I
us.
hadn't.
She could tell us. But Bradley County's big. If you ever drive from the Georgia line to the Calhoun Bridge and get a speeding ticket, you'll know how far it is. It's a long drive.
Do you know, I used to drive from the Village Shopping Center to Don Ledford's Automotive
Yeah.
without stopping. It was a trick. I could time it just
The
right.
lights?
The lights. You could time it just right of the evening, like
Could never
10
do that
o'clock
today.
at night, and you could do it all the way down there and never stop.
You could never do that today.
You could never do it today. You know, I can't get, say, from Charleston, where I'm building those apartments, to the Burger Chef. At certain times, it could take you 25 or 30 minutes.
Oh, yes. I've had to leave early to go get the kids. They get out of school. I have to take 30 minutes sometimes.
I bet you do.
From downtown Cleveland to Charleston Elementary.
You know, when you pass Anatole, you sort of get a calming effect.
Yeah.
All the way through Charleston, it's just a wide road. Traffic's going a good speed. There's not that much traffic. You get into Charleston, it's real quiet. I predict that where Lauderdale comes into North Lee Highway,
Yeah.
it's going to be the next section that people will want to be traffic
Of growth?
Yeah, because you got Michigan Avenue
Yeah.
and Chatta Valley. You got North Lee Highway, Michigan Avenue, and Chatta Valley, all pretty good thoroughfares to get from the south to the north. You can almost be at the Village, hit the bypass, hit 20th Street, go down Tasso, and be in Charleston by the time you can go through downtown.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. So is this progress we're going after, or should we be excited about it? Hey, great, we can't get through town now. Is that success? Is that progress?
Well, it's certainly frustrating.
I mean, where is the progress in
Yeah.
that? I mean, we're happy we're here because we're a small town. We love being a semi-small town, and we're doing everything we can not to be a small town.
Yeah.
Is that stupid?
No, I don't think it's stupid, but I do think
So what are we trying? What are we trying to do? Be more intelligent?
I think what you're talking about will be a defining conversation over the next 10 years in this community, because you have a large handful of people who don't want to live in a big town. They don't want to live in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, and they love Bradley County. They love a small town. And then you've got other folks that might be moving in from those areas or moving in for jobs that aren't from here, that are looking for something a little more metropolitan.
All right. Well, let them. Why can't we stay smaller and let what we have just be more expensive?
Like a Ooltewah?
Yeah. Instead of adding more of what we got and diluting what we got, let's just say, hey, if you want to live in a small town where we're at,
Yeah.
it's going to cost you more. Why? Because
Yeah.
we have less stuff.
I think when you get outside some of the major thoroughfares, the really busy pockets, the Paul Huff Parkways, the Keith Streets, the Coe and 25th Streets, you know, you get outside of these really congested areas, you don't have to go far. It does still feel small. It does still feel rural, even with neighborhoods.
Is there any way we can ruin that?
I think if we
'Cause that's
continue to centralize all of our growth in one area, it'll just get worse.
But it'll just be inside that pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of spread out and diluted. I don't know.
Yeah. But I think you're going to begin to see, hopefully, some development and growth at Exit 20 and in that area. I mean, it's been ripe for that with development and land for years. But there's only so much land at exit 27, there's only so much you can put on Paul Huff Parkway, and I think a lot of investment has gone into that southern part of the county that I hope sooner rather than later we start to see some benefit from.
Some spread out.
Yeah.
So you think that will theoretically be less traffic on Paul Huff?
Well, I think as long as you continue to have the number of businesses and restaurants and shopping centers that you have on Paul Huff, we will continue to see the congestion at Paul Huff. What I would hope that we could do is begin to spread out into other areas like an exit 20 and maybe start to bring some growth there. There's also only so many people in the area. So right now, if they're in theory all going to Paul Huff, you give them choices and you can spread the congestion out. But, growth comes with challenges. There's no doubt about it. And I think we are already seeing sort of that back and forth of, growth versus wanting to stay rural and small. And, there's a lot of needs in the county. And
what does the county need?
Oh, gosh. Depends on what elected official or department head you're talking to.
What does our county need that other counties don't have?
First of all, I think, for what we pay in taxes and what services we get, I think Bradley County is in good shape. Is there an opportunity to do better and be better? Always. I would say that would probably be the case for any county in Tennessee. But the big issues that come to my mind or that I hear about, there's obviously infrastructure issues, whether it be broadband, sewer, water. Why are developers and why are folks wanting to be annexed into the city? Well, for things just like that, sewer and water. Very costly, very expensive, a very long road to try to bring sewer and water to the entire county. But I think that's a need for parts of the county. We've got horrible land when it comes to septic systems. We've got existing septic systems that are failing, that are causing people tremendous problems and issues. But we've got a lot of land that just doesn't perk well. And that's difficult if you're trying to build, whether it's on your own land or you're a developer trying to develop homes. I think we've got first responders that we know other counties and other departments close by are paying their folks better. So it's hard to recruit. It's hard to retain good quality employees when that's the case. For us to become competitive, it's a good chunk of change. And
competitive for the good employees, I guess.
No, to keep people and recruit people is what I mean.
Yeah.
by being competitive. They're when a department down the road, is offering $6,000 or $7,000 more starting than what we can offer. It's hard to recruit people to Bradley County when that's the case. And so I want the very best paramedics and EMTs or sheriff's deputies showing up to my house if I have a problem. And I'm grateful that we have some of the best EMTs, paramedics, and sheriff's deputies. And so it's not just about recruiting those kind of folks, but it's about keeping the ones we've got too. And so it's not just about that starting pay. It's also about what we're able to give them long term, and reward them for staying.
It almost boils down to just sewer. You can have as many people as you want to living in a place, and unless there's a way to flush your commode efficiently, you're not going to have a crowd.
Right.
Now, if you have a way to flush your commode efficiently, you're going to have a crowd.
Sure.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Now, that brings to mind, Charleston's got sewer. When did they get sewer? Because you wouldn't run sewer out to that place today and start your own town. I think it was a development, Southeast Development
Yeah.
District that went around to these small cities and had.
I don't remember when that was, but of course, you have all that manufacturing up there that benefited from it too.
Now, didn't Polk County, Benton, don't they have sewer downtown Benton?
I think that's
No,
Coe.
no.
Coe
No,
Utilities?
do they have? I don't know if they do or not. Do Graham? I
Yeah.
think they do. So how do they get sewer? I think Nyota's got sewer.
Well, I mean, it's the company or in our
Power
case, the
power
government.
is in
Yeah.
the sewer.
Yeah. That's
Not
certainly
the
where
water.
the pockets of growth are the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, frankly, some people are against sewer expansion because they know what it may potentially mean for their neck of the woods.
It'd be a hard argument to be against sewer expansion.
You'd have a hard time arguing not to have that on any level,
Yeah.
whether you liked progress or not.
Yeah.
So, boy, it's complicated, isn't it? I don't know the answers. Now, do your days pretty well planned out?
I like to start my day planned out, but
Do you have your own office there?
I do. I work there in the mayor's office. We're upstairs at the courthouse annex, the old post office downstairs.
That's right. Yeah, you go up those long stairs.
Yep.
How many steps
We're
are
on
there?
It's the mayor counts them every time. I think it's 23.
Does he count them every time?
He says he's counting them every time. I come up the back steps, so
That'd be hard if you was on the phone, wouldn't it?
He counts them in his head.
You come through the basement through Teresa's office.
I do usually take
Come
the
up the
elevator up
elevator?
because I park out back. So I usually take the elevator up, come in through planning, and
You've got a good job, don't you?
I love it.
Don't you?
I'm grateful for it.
Are you thinking now? You're all off tomorrow.
We are, closed for the holiday. So
What are
that's
you
nice.
going to do tomorrow?
Just I've got some pork smoking on the Traeger right now, so
The Traeger
enjoying
grill.
it. Yeah.
Boy, everywhere I go, I hear about a Traeger grill. Do you use the pellets?
Yes, absolutely love it. I used to think it was cheating because I've used a barrel smoker and I still love a good barrel smoker, but there's something nice about just setting it and walking away.
Do you buy the pellets in a bag?
You do, yeah. Yeah.
What kind of pellets are they? Do you have choices, or is it just one?
Yeah, so
thing?
I use mostly apple, but they've got hickory, mesquite, oak.
When you cook with the apple pellets, can you tell a big difference? Is it
I can tell the difference in the wood flavors. I can.
just a very hint?
Yeah.
What do you got cooking on it right now?
I've got a 11-pound pork butt. It'll smoke tonight, overnight.
When'd you
Do
put
some
it
chicken
on?
wings about 1 o'clock.
It's sitting outside,
Yes, on the patio
smoking right now.
right now.
How do you know how long to cook it?
It's about
I mean,
90 minutes per pound.
Is that what the directions say, or you just know that?
I just know it from experience. I go
Oh,
about
because you
220.
were in a cook. That's right.
225
Yeah.
for about an hour and a half.
Did
per
you
pound.
know how to do that before you went to the?
Well, I wasn't a cook. I was just the manager.
Is that where you learned it?
No, just I love grilling, love smoking. So every grill's a little bit different. I would usually go a little bit hotter in the barrel smoker, so I would get it done. It would be more like an hour per pound, but with since I can control the temperature a little bit better on the trigger.
How do you know How do you know that it won't overcook by the time you get it?
It's got a thermometer. I have a digital read thermometer in it, so I'll take it off when it hits 165 and wrap it.
When the temperature gets to 165.
When the meat temperature gets to 165, that's the pork butt.
Now how do you know what the meat you open
There's
it?
there's a temperature. There's a probe thermometer in it right now.
How do you know it's not reading the temperature around it instead of the temperature of the meat?
So I have two. There's an air temperature inside, so I can see what the air temperature is in the grill, and then you just got to get that sucker right in the middle. So you're not anywhere close to the outside or close to a bone. You just want to go straight in the middle of that big piece of meat.
So it's when the insides get to 160 degrees.
So when I get to 165, I pull it off. It's not going to take any more smoke at that point. The outside's pretty well, cooked. The bark's there like I like it, and I wrap it and I'll put it in a tin pan with tin foil covering it just to keep it warm, and put it back in there. Finish it off to about 200 degrees, and then pull it out.
Why do you wrap it up like that?
Because to keep it from drying out, really.
It keeps the juices.
Yeah, it's not gonna take any more smoke flavor in at that point. So there's no sense in having it exposed. It really, you run the risk of drying it out if you.
Now,
if
why'd
just
you
leave it
put
sitting
that in
long.
there instead of ribs?
Well, because I do have ribs. I just didn't do them this time. I'm gonna do some chicken wings tomorrow before I head out to a friend's house. So chicken and pulled pork.
Will you take all that stuff with you?
Just the meat when it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
11 pounds?
It'll be less than that when it cooks down.
How
That's
big is
11.
that? Enough for how many people?
That's way too much for the number of people we have, but it'll be about half that in weight when it cooks down. So it's not 11 pounds of pork. It'll be more like 5, maybe 6.
Are they bringing stuff too?
Yeah, I'm just bringing the meat.
So they're bringing. You're the only
bringing the
one
meat.
bringing the meat.
Yep.
But you're gonna put chicken on too.
Chicken wings. Do these smoked dry rub
Well, if
chicken
they
wings.
have more people and they run out of food,
Well, I hope the sides are good.
will they bring like potatoes and something else?
Probably.
How
I
do you
didn't
keep
ask them.
from eating it tonight?
Well, it won't be done tonight.
Oh,
It won't be done till
That's
about.
the only say.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll smoke all night. So probably, I don't know.
How big
9 to
is your
10.
Traeger grill? This big?
It's a long one. I don't remember what number it
How
was.
much was that?
It was a gift, so I don't know. But I think they run about $400 or $500. You can get them starting out. You can get them with Wi-Fi and all that, and they're more expensive. But
Boy, whoever came up with that idea was a genius, wasn't it?
you can run it. I could change the temperature sitting right here.
And you put those pellets in the bottom.
It's got a feeder, and it burns those pellets and smokes. It's the heat source and the smoke source.
How does it know when it needs more pellets?
That? I don't know.
But it does, right?
It's
Like a cat
it's smart.
feeder, I guess.
Yeah. It just spits them out into the burner.
They've been out, what, about 2 years or 3?
I think so. At least that long.
What else do you cook on it?
I've done baked potatoes, ribs are good, whole chicken's good.
How long does it take on a baked potato?
It'll go up to 450 degrees, so you can cook something in there pretty
What would
quick.
you cook on that hot?
I finished those chicken wings I'm gonna do. I'm gonna finish those off at 450. I'll smoke them to temperature, and then I want to get some.
How do you
Get 'em
know
a
what
little
the
crispy.
temperature is?
On
You say you'll smoke them to temperature.
so those are just basically by time, about an hour. I've got they're larger ones this time, so probably about an hour and a half. And then I'll kick them over to 450 for about 10 minutes just to crisp them up a little bit.
You're making me hungry.
It's good.
Yeah, and I'm. So what else is it we need to talk about? You've got me hungry. Oh, the furthest part out in the county, you would say. Now, what about Mount Zion, Mountain Road? You go out
Yeah.
Harrison Pike
Yeah.
and you turn right on Mountain. That is huge
Yeah.
back in there. And then you got Boss Springs.
Yeah. A lot of people don't get out that far.
Not people don't.
I've been out that far, and it's hard to believe you're still in Bradley County. You're driving so far.
Now, if you go all the way and get to go in Boss Springs, doesn't that dirt road go under the interstate? I think.
If you keep going,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it. And they
Yeah.
used to just 4-wheel back in there.
I believe that. Are you running for office?
No, no, I'm not. I'm not. Are you going to run to seek political office in the future? I sense that you enjoy a good fight.
I like I've never heard it described that way. I do. I mean, there's things I care about. There's things I think are important. There's ideas that I have. And you could say I fight for those.
Have you ever been wrong? Thought, man, I shouldn't have fought hard for that.
Sure. I don't think anybody that's telling the truth can admit that they haven't been there. I think that's part of learning and growing and getting better. You know, I've been involved in a lot of campaigns. I've been fortunate. I've won more than I've lost, but I have learned more from the losses than I have from the ones that we've been able to win. But I'll never say never about running for office. I think for the first time in life, I used to just flat out say no, that it wasn't something that I was interested in. But the older I get and the more involved I stay, we need good people. It matters who governs. I said that once or twice already. And we need good people. And a lot of times we just don't have people that step up and want to do it. It's tough. It's not an easy job on any of these levels.
Doesn't pay much.
From dog catcher to, mayor. But, a lot of the, county commission, city council, I mean, nobody's running for these positions to get rich. They don't pay enough to get rich. Even some of the countywide elected offices, they pay well enough, but you're not typically going to get rich in public service. It's not why people do it. But
how would you like to? I've often thought about these county officials that spend a year and a half campaigning, making some people mad and finding out who your enemies are, and get up to that election day and lose. And you spent X amount of dollars of your own money buying plastic signs and stands that are blown over. Then you got to go up the next day and pick up all your signs.
It's tough. I've been there with
all
folks
for an $80,000 a year job, and you just spent $20 doing it.
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
Then you got to have a treasurer to make sure nobody gives you more than $1,000 or what is it?
Everything's reported right. And cataloged and signed off on.
I'd say that if you were to keep up with that campaign contribution stuff, I'd say that is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. Because
it's not my favorite. When I work with a candidate, I tell them first thing, you find somebody to be your treasurer, find somebody to handle the finances. That's not me. I don't want to. If you don't do it right, you can get yourself into some trouble. And if you do it right, you're raising a good bit of money, and it can be a busy job. I like to focus on other parts of the campaign and
getting the votes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Or getting the message.
The message, how are we going to get the votes? What's the number of votes we need to get? Where are these people? Who are these people?
You ever read books on history about this thing that you're talking about? Campaigns or campaigns. Because you got two things. You help people with the campaigns. You're interested in campaigns, but then right now you're actually governing.
Yeah.
So now it's like elected. Now what?
Right.
You're elected. Now what do you do?
Right.
So in history, what would you say was one of the most interesting elections that you know of, besides our last one?
I can't say that I've studied specific elections in past. I've read a number of presidential biographies and books about our older past presidents, and one of the books I've called Team of Rivals. It's about Lincoln. When he was elected, he essentially brought into the cabinet all of his enemies, if you will, folks that had run against him, folks that had attacked him. He surrounded himself with people like that, and how successful his presidency was as a result of that. I read a book by...
What was his reasoning?
In short, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But he also appreciated, he was a big debater, right? Mm-hmm. So he liked having that alternative viewpoint at the table. He felt like it kept him sharp. In some cases, they had a better idea, and they were able to sway him. But it was a good sense of balance for him, and he wanted that accountability and that balance as a part of his cabinet. And as a part of his presidency.
That's one person I wouldn't have wanted to be, is Lincoln.
Well,
Can you imagine what he went through?
Yeah. It's a tough time in history.
I mean, he had the whole country. We think we're divided now.
Right.
That's how a lot of these churches split up.
Yeah.
How could you go to church with somebody and their nephew was fighting against your nephew?
So the only time we probably have been more divided than we are now.
Way more.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Without question.
I mean, they had churches divided up.
Yeah.
That's how some
families
religions got started. They just changed the name so they didn't have to go pray with them because they
Yeah.
were trying to kill their sons on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a tough time. That had to, you know the old saying, don't you? They said, they asked Mary Todd Lincoln, other than the shooting, how was the play?
Awful. It's awful.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
What other campaigns did you study? Or you're saying you like to read about past presidents?
Yeah, I can't say that I've studied necessarily specific campaigns. I tend to study more current campaigns and campaign technology and strategy and sort of the tools and resources that are out there. So what more would benefit me now than looking back to see? I mean, there's fascinating stories that often are found in history, but most of my experience has obviously been on the job, if you will. You know, actually running and being involved in campaigns, win or lose, and you know, looking to see what works and what doesn't, and of course how things change. You know, social media has really changed the landscape of political campaigns from the national level down to the local level.
Yeah, how would that have changed? How would Lincoln have dealt with Facebook or YouTube
goodness.
or would they have silenced him?
You know, I don't know. They've certainly silenced at least a former president as of late, but you know, I think it's in a lot of ways it's helped our society, but in many more ways, I think the advent of social media has hurt more than it's helped. But when it comes to running a campaign, it's a necessary evil, and it's an amazing tool if used the right way and if it's used effectively.
Obama used it real effectively.
Yes.
That was one way he went, is what I understood. He was the first president that everybody else thought it was silly.
Right.
In fact, when Trump was running, he was tweet. You know, he even started out on Twitter, and they thought that was silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, when you read about these past presidents, you think to yourself, that may not be exactly how it happened, but that's how they saw it happen.
Right.
And that's still valuable.
Right. Yeah, depending on who the writer is. I mean, a couple of them have been they were autobiographies.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's a historian. So it's their interpretation of history or their research. And
Does the county have more issues than this annexation thing? I'm sure there's other things that aren't out in the public that you say, man, how are we going to deal with that?
There are, and you could sit down with every department head and every elected official, and they could give you a laundry list of things that they feel are important, and many of them are, to be able to run their department or their neck of the woods better. You know, and that's why, you know, I love Cleveland and Bradley County because it's not a big town, but there's only, in my opinion, I got to be careful because I'm not speaking for the mayor when I say this, but I think to some degree he would agree with me. The needs that we have are costly. And the only way to pay for them, there's only two ways that the county can get new money to pay for new things, right? It's either through growth, new homes being built, new businesses coming in, new shopping malls, new restaurants, you know, more sales tax. That's one. Or by raising property taxes. And that was done recently, and it was not popular, and it remains unpopular. So it's not likely that that's going to be a course of action that the county takes anytime in the near future to see more revenue to be able to address some of these needs. And that's the frustrating part. And I will say, people have asked me, what's changed in your thinking now that you work for the mayor? I've had that question before. You know, you thought this way about X, Y, and Z before when you were on the outside. Now what do you think? And I think it hasn't changed a lot, but I will say I have a better appreciation for the entire landscape of the county in terms of the needs that are there. You know, Sheriff Lawson will stand up and say that we got to take care of his folks, and we got to take care of his buildings, and we got to take care of his vehicles, and he's absolutely right. But at the same time, you'll have another elected official who will stand up over here, or another department head stand up over here and say, we need to take care of my folks, and we need to take care of my buildings, and we need to take care of my vehicles, my equipment, and they're right too. If we were to try to address everything that's at the top of their priority lists, we just couldn't afford it. And so that's a tough spot for any elected official in Bradley County to be. From the county commissioner to the mayor to our countywide elected officials, they have a tremendous burden. You asked, that's why you asked if I would ever want to run. I used to say no because it was easier to sit in the peanut gallery and kind of throw rocks, but I think I would at some point like to run if I had the chance and I had the kind of support that you need to win, simply because I think the challenges that we are facing now and in the future aren't going to get any easier, and what small part I play now I hope makes a difference, and I hope maybe one day I'll be able to make a greater difference, and if that's in elected office, then I'd welcome that.
But for now, you're the assistant
Right.
to his executive,
Right.
Mayor Davis.
And so I look for every way I can to help him, and where we can partner. When I say we, his office, him, where we can partner with elected officials and county commissioners and to work together. And I will say that my impression of Mayor Davis hasn't changed a whole lot. That's the other thing. Well, what's it like really working for him? I didn't have a strong opinion about him either way before, so it's not like I've been shocked that he was or wasn't like I thought he was. But I appreciate, I've often told him this, and I hope he won't mind me saying this publicly. I actually consider it a compliment. But he's a bad politician. Because he will do what's right if he thinks it's the right thing to do, regardless of if it wins him any votes. Or
He's on that other side of the thinking.
It's not that he doesn't care, but he doesn't do things for political expediency. And that's why I say he's not a good politician. I've worked for candidates, and on the campaign side, it's don't say anything controversial, don't say anything to upset this crowd, ride the fence on this question. So I certainly appreciate that about him, and I've told him that. So when I tell him, tongue in cheek, you're not a very good politician, it's not meant to be a slap in the face. It's really meant as a compliment.
That's a compliment.
It's a compliment because he time and time again he's made decisions and he has principles that he's stood on. That frankly he's made decisions and done things that have upset people. But
hey, maybe that is a good politician.
Maybe it is. That's right. That's right. But I can say though that being on the inside, if you will, I have a better appreciation for how well really all the elected officials work together. I think social media, the actual media, likes to pick up on division and maybe arguments. There's some heated conversations that happen in those meetings, and sometimes people raise their voice, and sometimes people call each other names. But I think by and large, I've always been impressed with the ability for those folks to walk away, and even if they disagree on this issue, they know they've got to sit down at the table and work out this one. And for the most part, they're all able to do that.
Well, most of them, that's the end of the inning. Now I'll see you back at the next inning.
That's right. And they understand that phrase. You might lose the battle, but not going to lose the war.
Yeah. I always think of it as, remember those two cartoon guys, the sheepdog and you're too young, but
yeah,
the cartoon thing. They used to come in and they'd chase each other all day, and they'd go out by the tree and clock out and say, "See you, Fred." I don't see that one anymore. But anyway, it was just the end of the day. They'll be back tomorrow to argue, but they're both going home.
That reminds me of a story. We were talking about how politically polarizing everything is, and I remember a friend of mine, Art Rhodes, who was involved working in
and very tall.
Yes, very tall. But Art's got experience working in Capitol Hill and working with members of Congress. And I remember asking him one time, has it always been like this? Early on when I got down here and I met him and worked with him on some campaigns, I remember asking him, I'd heard him tell some stories. I said, did it used to be this bad? And he said, no, it really didn't. And he told a story, and I will not remember the names. It's a fascinating story, but I'll be brief. 2 senators, I think it was, or 2 congressmen, they came out of a committee meeting, and one was a Democrat and the other was a Republican, and they walked up to the cameras, and they just trashed each other. You know, Democrats, Republicans.
Yeah.
They both turn around, they're walking down the hall, and one ribbed him. He said, how'd I do? You know,
Sound like a good lawyer.
they played the political game, but they were friends. They were colleagues. They respected each other. They played tennis. They had meals together.
Who
You
was
don't
it?
see that now.
Who was it? Shakespeare said, "Life is a play, and we're all just actors in it. Life is a stage, and we're all actors." I guess they're just playing their part.
Yeah, that's how his reference to that story was. That's how it used to be. Now you've got Republicans and Democrats that literally look across the aisle and think that's the enemy, and that's what's frustrating. They're Americans just like I am. We might disagree on what's the best course of action or what the role of government is, or you know what government should or shouldn't be involved in. But at the end of the day, I'd like to think that we all want the same thing.
And if the majority wants to try it that way, we'll try it that way a while.
Right.
If it don't work, we'll change it next time.
That's the beauty of a democratic system.
Democracy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll say this: if Gary likes you, I love you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.